Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joar, and today is Friday, July 5th, 2024, and I've got the awesome Kevin Nether here with me. Hi, Kevin. How are you, Ninja?
I'm doing pretty good. I just saw you maybe a week and a half ago, so I'm still doing pretty good. Still standing, still strong. So I'm here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. Speaking of, I think we might see each other again next week because Samsung's doing this big thing. Turns out their big event is in Paris, but some of us going to be in New York because you have to play with the devices to keep our hungry audience satisfied. So that's kind of what I want to start talking with you about. We obviously don't know anything about the phones, and then this massive leak comes out. And I'm like, I cannot not talk about this. Like, we have to kind of at least go over it and speculate, right? Because, I feel like Samsung is really excited about the Ring, and I'm also super excited about the Ring. And we're going to find out everything about that next week, right? But the phones, they just haven't even talked about. They seem to not talk about them. So I think we should address the elephant in the room. So I want to chat with you about what your thoughts are on these leaks. Obviously, they're leaks. Who knows if they're true? But the leaker Evan Blast is pretty accurate, so I figure we've got some good numbers there. Then the other thing I want to talk to you about is because last week my podcast was essentially with Michael from the New York event. We just talked Razer. Like, all we did was talk Razer.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually cover anything else, and so because of that, I was like, oh boy, I'd better talk about the other news. And the other news are that Google decided they're going to have an event on August 13th for the Pixel 9 series. Like, who knew, right? So let's talk about that because I'm kind of like excited about it. I love, I'm a Pixel 8 Pro user right now. That's my main phone. I've used the Pixel Fold. I know the Fold is probably not going to be launched then, but I want to hear your thoughts on that. And then, of course, we have all these weird, strange, fun Chinese phones that are coming out, trickling out, some rumors, some leaks, some things that are interesting. I kind of picked the best of the bunch for the last 2 weeks. And I know you've been starting to play with some of these, so I'd love to hear your thoughts in general now that you're in on the crazy Chinese train.
Yeah. It's definitely a crazy Chinese train for sure. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the Galaxy?
Yeah, let's start with Galaxy because look, we know that it's all going to be a wearables, and then we know there are phones, and I kind of feel like this leak shows that Samsung maybe doesn't care so much about their phones this year, like for the folding phones at least. They gave us a good showing with the S24 series, I felt. It was also very evolutionary, but this is really like, after last year, we were all like, seriously, that's all? It's very evolutionary. We figured they would step it up a notch, especially with OnePlus Open that came out. And here we go. And it's actually, I feel like it's even less of an upgrade than last year. How about you?
Yeah, sort of just kind of looking over because I really try to stay away from leaks, but sort of looking over these leaks right here. And, Evan is most likely right. So I'll say that much. Yeah, it seems like just a small upgrade, like a little bit lighter, a little bit shorter, a little bit wider. Okay, it's a little bit brighter. Like that's it. And, every year, anytime a new phone comes out, we always say that, like, year over year, you shouldn't buy a new phone. Like it's just, it doesn't make sense at a certain point. But now it's like getting close to 2 years now, because when we look at these changes, they're so small. And, Samsung is really big on the wearables. And I am excited for the Galaxy Ring is what I'm actually excited about, because I think this is going to be the first time that a big tech manufacturer made a smart ring. I wear a smart ring now. I've used many different brands, and I do wonder what like Samsung could do if they make one, or like one of these big electronics company actually making one, and not just like a company we've never heard of that has some like, venture funding.
Look, I'm with you. I'm a ring virgin. I've never worn a smart ring. So I'm getting, obviously, hopefully a review in it to try out. And I'm really excited about it because, look, I think this is, when Apple Watch came out and it kind of killed Pebble off in a way. I was there. I was at Pebble. I worked there at the time. And, we kind of had a strategy of what we're going to do about it. But we never, like I left before things got too crazy. But the short story is that we couldn't execute on the strategy and compete. And I kind of feel bad for these other competitors in the smart ring field, because I feel this is the same thing happening, or it's about to. We're about to have the same inception moment of the Galaxy ring is going to make smart rings legit. In the same way as the Apple Watch made smartwatches legit. And Pebble was a victim of that. Maybe, hopefully not, but maybe Aura will be a victim of that, and others. I think there's always space for more. But here's the thing. If Samsung does it, you know Apple's going to do it. It's going to take a bit of time, but they're going to do it, and they're going to do it better, maybe 2 years from now. Right. And then it's a big war between the big players. And I wouldn't be surprised then if we start seeing, you know, BBK Group with Oppo or OnePlus do something. Nothing might do something because they're really into the ecosystem and accessories. We're going to talk about some of the CMF stuff in a bit. But like, I feel like because of that, like, I'm excited because I'm a virgin. I get to try it. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm also excited that like this is a legit company with legit health and fitness tracking on really solid watches and devices already, kind of really taking this to the next level, hopefully. You know, who knows? Like, again, I don't know what to expect because I don't even know what the normal rings do. Like, as far as I know, correct me because you're wearing one. It does like sleep tracking, heart rate sensing, all the steps and motion stuff that, you know, gives you exercise and all that stuff. Like, it doesn't do notifications, presumably, on these rings, right?
Yeah,
there's no room for light or vibration motor. And so it's basically like a smartwatch, but without the notification, without the apps, and of course much lighter and thinner, and battery life is probably really good, right? What are you wearing, and how long is the battery life right now?
Yeah, so I wore the Aura for about a year or so, and now I switched over to Ultra Human. I'm using Ultra Human right now. I like Ultra Human's ring actually better. I like their app better. I like their not paying $12 a month for your own health data better.
Right.
But,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But the battery life on this one isn't great at all. I'd say I get around 5 days on this, where the Aura gave me around a week, maybe a week and some change, depending, because like the Aura kind of did like a low battery mode, like a low power mode, where it gave you less metrics, but also you were able to have it much longer. This thing right here is like, after 3 days, it's like 30% left. You have approximately 2 more days to go. Like it's very aggressive on it. Now, something that it does that a watch doesn't do is that it gives you like more detailed information. So like skin temperature, which is like a great way to tell if you're getting sick or if you will be sick, or ovulation and things like that, because your skin temperature changes.
Right.
So this can predict that you're getting sick. And then also, if let's say you know your temperature has gone up and then your sleep wasn't good, it would say like, you know, step back today, you may be getting sick. Here's some things to do. So you get a lot of that stuff and things you wouldn't really think about, especially if you're go. And then, yeah, it's the same thing as like not having to wear a watch every day, or you may be a person that wants to try different watches or anything like that. This is always on you, which is nice. Now, as far as like workout tracking, it's not as accurate as for workout tracking, because I don't think it has as many sensors as like a smartwatch would have.
Right.
So if you are like in the fitness space, this is not the best choice. A smartwatch is much better for fitness.
But here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, Kevin, you can add a smartwatch to a ring, right? Technically, and this is where I'm very excited to see what Samsung does, because Oura doesn't make a smartwatch, right? The one you're wearing, there's no smartwatch either. So you're basically like, imagine now you're Samsung, you already know how to do smartwatches, and you make a ring, and now they can complement each other for people like Jaime, right, who are super hardcore exercise centric, right? That would be I think a boon. And then you want to sleep, be relaxed, comfortable, just wear the ring, right? And then, you know, you want to go to a formal event, and you're just going to wear a classic Rolex or something. You know what I'm saying? No smartwatch at all. I think that, to me, is killer. It's not just, as you said, like the differences between the ring and the watch. It's the fact that with Samsung, you're going to be able to have your cake and eat it too. You're going to have the choice of having both. And I think this is why I'm really not, like, I obviously have no idea, but I wouldn't really be surprised if Apple does something in the next 2 to 3 years on the ring side, because, you know, Tim Cook, he works out. He's all about the metrics, you know?
Yeah,
You don't want to,
yeah.
like, I love the Apple Watch Ultra, but, you know, it's pretty clunky to sleep with, right? Like a
Yeah, it
regular
is,
Apple
definitely.
Watch is a lot more comfortable. And now imagine you just take off your Apple Watch Ultra during the night, you just put your ring on, you're good to go, you know?
Yeah, there is actually some of that going on because it does tap into Apple Health Kit. So even with this
Right.
third party ring that I wear, all the metrics does get fed into Apple Health Kit. So it does have that seamless handoff where, I wear this ring all night, take the watch off, I wake up, my Apple Health Kit will say, "Hey, you hit your sleep goal that you set up," and everything in there ties in, pulls in from that ring. So you do kind of have some of that parity going on, but definitely there's nothing like first party compared to third party tapping into an API.
That's
So I
what
can
I'm
definitely
saying,
see
right?
that
Like, you
synergy.
know that with Samsung, it's going to be done pretty well. And then
Yeah.
once Apple does it, you know it's going to be even more masterful, right?
For sure,
So,
yeah.
you know, obviously we have that. We don't know anything about the watch, the ring. There's, you know, rumors of earbuds as well. That doesn't surprise me. Honestly, the Samsung buds, I've always been very happy with them, but I'd never feel like that little ball design of theirs,
Yeah.
you know, like it's always a bit of a snail kind of deal. I much rather, for lack of a better
Yeah.
explanation to somebody who's never seen a pair of Samsung buds, to me that the elegance of the stem type buds like OnePlus does, nothing does, Apple does, and the rumors are, you know, we've seen leaks that they're going to be like that. I'm actually very happy about that. I think that you know, more players the better. Samsung's always been a pretty tops on the bud space, but for me it's always been a bit weird with the fit.
Yeah.
Basically, they fit me, but it's not like I just don't feel as secure and happy with them.
Yeah.
You know, same with Sony, right? Like I love the sound of the Sonys, but they've always have fit issues with them. Like I always
Yeah.
feel that, like the Link buds, the S in particular, are smaller and kind of more comfortable for me, and they sound really good. But of course, once you hear the WF, you know, 1000 XM5, like the top of the line earbuds, you're like, oh yeah, those are, and then you wear
different,
them,
yeah.
and half an hour later, you're like, no, I can't wear them. Like they're not
Yeah.
comfortable, you know. And so I'm, you know, there's that on the buds. But speaking of the phones, I think what's important here, like there are some things in these docs that Evan leaked that are very interesting to me. The first one is, let's talk about the Flip first, because, okay, better camera on the Flip, main camera, that I think is worth celebrating. This is putting it on parity with the Fold, 50 megapixel main sensor now. Still has the 12 megapixel ultra wide, but you know what? I can live with that. Even iPhones don't have anything more than 12 megapixel ultra wide. The 50 megapixel main means better zooming because you can do in sensor crop. I think this is going to be a big upgrade for a lot of folks. But the data shows that they have an IPS display in the front, and that really makes me scratch my head, because if that's true, like that doesn't make sense. You can't have an always-on display anymore.
Yeah.
And then they're generally thicker, yet the phone is thinner than last year and has a bigger battery also. The specs say 4,000 versus 37. I don't know if that's true, but obviously we'll find out. But if it's thinner and has a bigger battery and has an IPS display, how does that make any sense? The IPS display would be thicker than an OLED. It would have to have a ribbon cable that gets in the way. Like all of that, to me, like that seems like a typo, or maybe preliminary stuff, or maybe somebody put it as a placeholder. Like it does look like an official Samsung dock, right? So
yeah, for sure.
and I don't think obviously Evan just like, you know, changed anything there. So I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So we'll find out. But honestly, on those two phones, the only big upgrade is, you know, they're lighter, they're slightly smaller, maybe by like fractions of a millimeter, and Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, which, like what else are you going to do, right? You're Samsung, you always pick flagship chips. More RAM on the Flip. I think the Flip's going to be the big story, kind of like last year where we got that full-on front display, right? But look, Moto just came out, boom, 4-inch display. Entire front of the phone is a display now. There's equal bezels all the way around. Yes, they're bigger bezels. They look like an iPhone, you know, I don't know, like from 2-3 years ago. But who cares? Like they did it.
Yeah.
They did it. They pulled it off. And they also put a 50 megapixel camera in their phone. So I don't know. I feel like, how do you feel about, like, if these Flip specs are true, comparing it to the Razors that we both had the chance to play with and both have to review right now?
hmm Yeah. So, I mean, one of the big letdowns for the Razor was the lack of ultra wide.
Yeah,
So,
on the
having
big
the
one, on the
yeah
plus. Yeah,
on the Razor Plus is the lack of ultra wide, and like having a phone like this is sort of a fun phone, and ultra wide is just a fun perspective to use.
I
So
agree.
it does seem like kind of a step back. Speaking of the step back, the IPS instead of OLED, that would be very interesting because having a flipping phone and having always on display is kind of one of the big advantages of
I
having
mean,
a phone that you
Moto
can just sit
just
on your
added it.
table.
They just
Yeah.
put it on their
And
phone.
just,
Like this is like you're literally taking
yeah,
away
you're
a
going
feature that your
backwards.
competitor just advertised. Like, oof.
For sure. And I have my motor right here and it's just sitting on the table. I see my clock. I see a couple notifications and it's just super nice. I don't have to touch. I don't have to interact with it. It's just right there. And always on display is something that's been around now. It's been pretty just standard for so many years now. And having a phone without it is actually kind of a big step back in my opinion. So I hope that was something that it was a mix up and not correct, but these leaks are usually pretty spot
Yeah,
on. So
but
that's
it
that's that's
it's
my big
also
concern.
it's so anti Samsung. Like they've been doing OLEDs on their flagship phones since the Galaxy S2. Okay, wait,
Oh
no,
my
the
goodness.
original Galaxy had an OLED. So we're talking about every single phone that's a flagship Galaxy. Even I think the A series has had OLED for probably since the A10. Sorry, the A0 series. So like 50, the 10 is too low end for that. But like the A50, A70, like now we're at 75 or whatever, 74, 54. I know we're quite a few generations in. But OLED is the staple of Samsung. Like they swear by it, right? Like they have it on their laptops. They were the first to do that. They're the first to put it on tablets. Like how long did it take Apple to get an OLED display? Mind you, it's an incredible OLED display, but
Took a
the
while.
double
Yeah.
stack thing that they did on the iPad Pro, amazing. But I'm just saying, like this
Yeah,
doesn't make
for
sense to
sure.
me at all. Like if there's one thing that did make sense on the leaks for the Razer, it was the telephoto, and we got that. Oof. And like so, I'm really kind of like I know it's going to be a better phone than the 5 by overall better processor, better
hmm
battery, clearly smaller, thinner, please, and better camera, main camera. Like, please don't mess up the put an IPS and mess up the front.
Yeah,
Like, what are you thinking, Samsung?
that that makes absolute
So
makes absolutely
frustrating.
no sense at all. So hopefully that's not true, and hopefully we still have an OLED screen, and then it'll be a great comparison between these two phones. Like I'm really excited to really put the Razer Plus versus the Flip 6. I think that'll be a great competition between both the phones because like I know we're talking about the Flip, but Moto when it comes to their front display software,
Oh
I
my
think their
God.
software is great. I think they do an
It's
amazing job with it.
incredible.
So I'm interested to see what Samsung is actually doing with the Flip if they made like some software that can compete directly to it without having to use good lock and do like kind of workarounds. Like I wonder if it's just going to be on the phone
Yeah.
ready to go. That's what I'm
But
hoping for.
here's my take. I think we're gonna see more AI talk, and that's it. Like
Yeah, I'm just
I think it's
kind
going
of
to
over
be
it.
look Samsung AI. No, let's talk about the Fold briefly because there are some things I like there. It's wider and shorter, so the aspect ratio is possibly a little better on that front screen. It's also a slightly bigger front screen, and more importantly, and this is something that I'm kind of a fan of, is even with last year's Fold 5 that finally folded flat, nice, the aesthetics, the proportions, the general look and feel of the thing was not right. You look at OnePlus Open, even the Pixel Fold, which is a passport form factor, which is much wider and less tall.
hmm
Like their proportions seem right. Whereas this thing, the 5, it was weird. And now I think that by making it more square looking, more like an S24 Ultra, it somehow resonates better with me and looks right, and it's still not as wide and as it's still a little skinny tall thing, but I think those are valid improvements. But other than that, it looks like the only thing they changed is a brighter inner screen and then Snapdragon 8 Gen 3. And I'm thinking to myself like, look, the prices better stay the same because
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
like look at like you can get an Open for $599 right now.
Oh, and in the hand or just in general, the Open is probably the best the best folding phone in my opinion. I mean, I love the way
It is the best.
I love the way you can do, you can have all the apps open at one time. And I forgot the name. I forgot the stupid name they use for it. But when the little apps are like little cards right there, and you have them sort of open on each side, you tap it and it goes over.
Their
I think
UI
that was done.
is amazing.
Yeah. And so I think what happens with Samsung and also happens with Apple is that they get so far ahead of the lead, right? And then these other companies are making these crazy incremental changes. And these big companies have this arrogance of just like not thinking outside the box, not really changing things and not really making that next leap. While these other companies are making aggressive leaps and they become a better phone after a while, you know?
For sure. And look, I don't want to knock Samsung too hard, but the reality is when you go out there in the wild and you see a folding phone, it's usually a Samsung, right? Like I see a lot of folds out there. I don't see a lot of flips, but I see a lot of folds, especially like in Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, they need a bit more real estate. They have it on their, on a suction cup mount or something. But you don't see opens out there. I mean, you and I have one. Everybody we know has one because we're all tech journalists, YouTube creators, and, like TikTokers and stuff. But like, same with the Razr. I have not, like Theo my producer uses a Razr, last year's Razr Plus. And I mean, that's because I had one and they're like, I want to try it. And I was like, okay, here you go. But like, nope. Have you seen one in the wild that's not held in the hand of Michael Fisher? Like,
well, yeah. I mean, to be honest, in the suburbs of Michigan, all I'm seeing is iPhones. To be 100% honest, so not seeing anything different. But I was gonna say when I am in New York and on the subway, I do see a lot of Pixels and I do see Z Folds, and I see those a lot. I actually see a lot of Pixels in New York, which I'm very surprised and happy to see too.
It's same in the Bay Area here. I mean, you'd kind of think it would be the case, but it wasn't always. Like in the last 2 years, there are freaking tons of Pixels here, and I think you're seeing that too, like in New York. And I think Google's done something. Like they're doing something right. So
yeah, and I feel like a lot of times people buy a Samsung because like the anti-Apple, like, oh, I don't want to have an Apple. I'm going to buy a Samsung, right?
Right.
And then you see the people that just love Samsung. But what makes a person go out and buy a OnePlus outside of this tech space, right? Like if it's just a normal casual user, what would make them want to go out and buy a OnePlus phone? Not saying anything is wrong with it, but like how do they get that customer? How do they capture that person here stateside in America?
I don't know, to be frank, because they're no longer carriers. And it's like Moto, right? Like, look, last year's Edge Plus, their flagship, came out just a week or two before we got the Razrs. And it was a great flagship. It was finally a flagship that I felt like, hey, Moto, there's nothing to complain about. Even the cameras were okay. And then they did the Edge in the fall, right in the middle of like the Pixel, the iPhone, like the Open. It got drowned. I don't know if you even got a review in it of the original Edge last year. Oh my God, Kevin, it was such a good phone. It just flew under everyone's radar. This phone was like basically totally a OnePlus 12R competitor. Like totally. Like the only thing that was kind of like could improve was the chipset was a little weak. It was like a MediaTek, but like the camera was good. It took good photos, metal frame, wireless charging, beautiful OLED display, $500.
Nice.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So they just did the Edge for 24 and it's just as good. Again, they launched it like 3 weeks before the Razr, so it's complete. Nobody knows about it. Like I got a review and it is still in the box. I haven't had a chance to even unbox it. I from everything I've read and heard, it's just as good as last year's Edge. The only thing that they compromised on for price is it's a plastic frame instead of metal, but it has a better processor, so I'd rather take that. But like the reality is, like who buys these phones? Like they're not even sold by carriers. Like the Edge series. Like at least the Razr is sold by T-Mobile and AT&T, as you saw from I think their PR stuff that they sent us. But like nobody buys a Moto Edge. It just happens to be given to you as a bundle or something, And I feel so bad because like by itself, it was such a decent phone. And of course, with Moto, the prices drop really quickly. Like you get really good deals. So I don't know. I feel like Moto. is doing some good stuff, but they're not getting any kind of attention from the average consumer. And I think less so even than OnePlus, because at least OnePlus, you get that kind of hardcore, early adopter, tech savvy, like our audience, right, that knows about OnePlus will probably buy a OnePlus 12 or an Open, especially for $599. Like, folks, like, just go buy one. I think it's with trades and stuff, but think about it.
Yeah,
like,
but still, you could figure it out.
That's like an insane deal, and you can use it as a normal phone when it's closed. So don't worry too much about that. Durability, I've had mine in my pocket since last September every day, and I do stupid stuff because I like to just always have my phone on me, and I'll be like doing like hammering away at something, doing the basic like DIY, stuff in my house, painting, whatever. I've always had that phone in my, not a single problem. It's just been rock solid. Yeah, the display is as good as new. Everything on it is mint, and so it's really rugged. And I can't say that about my Pixels. They scratch a little easier, and like they wear more, but they work. I mean, my Pixels last a year or two, no problem. It's just like this Open looks like as good as it did on day one right now. Whereas like my Pixel 8 Pro is a few months newer, and it's mind you, I do use it a little more. But
and the camera bar really gets nicked up a lot.
Yeah.
That's the one thing it happens. It drives me nuts. Even when I'm like doing my review, by the time I start shooting it, it's nicked up. I'm like, I have no idea. But I try to like baby phones until I shoot the review, and I'm like, I don't understand how I nicked it up like that.
Yeah, I agree. It's feeling the same way. Speaking of which, we should switch over to Pixel Talk. I mean, I think we've kind of covered everything there is about Samsung. So stay tuned for next week. Kevin and I will be there. We'll have some content. I'm writing a hands-on for hardware like I did on the Razr. So there'll be an article, a video. I'm going to die, Kevin, because there are going to be so many devices to shoot in such a short time. And I gotta do video too. So I'm like,
oh, nice. Welcome to my world.
I know. But I'm just like, I have to write it up. And we don't have a lot of time to write it up. So
no,
it's going to be interesting. But anyway, stay tuned for that. Pixel, look. So because I didn't do any other phones than the Razr last week, I kind of skipped a week with announcement. The big news last week, other than the Razr, was that Google had officially announced that they have this event, at their headquarters on the 13th. And that is big news because usually the Pixel comes out in October. And so obviously it looks like right now we're going to get a Pixel 9, a Pixel 9 Pro, and a Pixel 9 Pro XL. That's the rumors. The folding phone is coming later. It's going to be the Pixel 9 Fold, I guess.
Oh, really?
Or 9 Pro Fold. It's got a weird name. They're not going for, they want to make it part. I mean, that's what I hear. I don't know.
Okay.
But what we know is there was a big leak of the Pixel 9 on video, fully functional in pink. Now, look, I love pink, and I don't expect everyone else to love pink, but like, would I rock one? Yes. But like, it is such an unlikely color. Like, I mean, Moto Razr in pink, right? That makes sense.
That's iconic, yeah.
Because it's iconic. Yeah. And also, magenta, T-Mobile. But like, you did not, like, I like the colors. That's what I really liked about the Razrs last week. All these choices in colors. And then now it looks like, we're going to get the usual Google muted, blues and greens and whites and stuff, and grays and maybe pink, or it looks like pink. So I'm excited about that. And the squared off design is actually growing on me. I don't like the rounded corners as much. Like on the Pixel 8a, I prefer like the Pixel 7a and the previous Pixels where it's more boxy, more like a Samsung Galaxy Ultra, But I'll live with it. It's fine, I just looked at it, and in hand, it looks pretty nice. What are your thoughts on this video and on these leaks and everything?
Well, it seems like Google gets leaked early. I remember one year it was leaked like 3 months early. It was like ridiculous how early it was leaked. I thought it was fake, but no. I kind of like the little like it being a little circle, like because it sort of reminds me of just Google's aesthetics.
Yeah, the UI
exactly.
aesthetics. 100%.
Yeah, so it's kind of fun to have like your hardware to look like that. And then all the branding and the UI aesthetics look in the same way. So like if they're going for more of the trendy look or more of the, Gen Z and stuff like that, which I think a lot of these companies are starting to do now. We saw it with
pink.
the Razr
Don't
Plus
forget
as well.
pink.
And pink, yeah.
Because
I don't
some
know,
people
like,
are going to dig pink. I
yeah,
mean,
and
Apple doesn't even have a pink phone. Come on.
they do
I
not.
mean, it's barely
And
pink, right?
you
On the
know,
iPhone.
I remember a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago, maybe even 20. I bought my
40
mom.
years ago when we were
Yeah, yeah,
babies.
yeah. I bought my mom a razor, and it was the hot pink razor from Verizon.
Ah,
And we saw that phone all the time. Like there is a market for pink. And a lot of the tech stuff, in my opinion, is getting bigger and bigger, which makes it harder for a lot of females to carry, or people who wear really tight skinny jeans to like carry phones. Like it becomes less and less convenient. So kind of having little homage back to like, hey, you know what? We're sort of thinking about you in kind of a way that a tech company can do by making things smaller and using things that are traditionally designed for different people, and just kind of like making people feel inclusive with that color. In my opinion, I really do like that, because I've seen my mom told me, she said, wow, that pink is calling my name. Like she instantly wanted that phone, and then I was like, Mom, sorry, it's not an iPhone. And she was like, never mind. Because my mom is so stuck on iPhone. No matter, I've
well,
tried everything, she's
so
stuck.
the 15 right now, I think, is on a very light shade of pink, very light, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it's not.
She
This is a real. This pink is in your face
Yeah, it's
pink.
hot.
It's
It's a
magenta.
hot pink.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hot pink. And actually,
It's fun. It's a
yeah,
fun pink.
I mean,
Yeah.
other than the fact that I get it. I get what you're saying about the rounded corner matching the UI design. I see that's a good point. And also in video, it looks less weird. Like it's like when I finally got my Pixel 8a review unit, and I finally took it out of the box, and I was like, oh, okay, it's not as bad as I like. Not bad.
Yeah.
It's never bad, but like it's not as
Yeah.
obvious as I thought. Like, I think I'm getting used to it. But as somebody who carries a Pro model, a large Pixel all the time, I really dug for a long time the squared off corners
Yeah.
of the 6 Pro, the 7 Pro, and the 8 Pro is a little more rounded now. But I guess the 9 Pro is going to be, or 9 Pro XL is going to be very rounded. So I got to get used to it. But the thing I think Google nailed, and I think nobody gives them, well, some of us do, but very few people give them credit for it, is the visor. The visor is so iconic now. Like the reason you and I are recognizing these pixels on the subway in New York, or for me here on the streets of San Francisco, is because we can immediately spot that it's a pixel.
For sure. Yeah.
Right? And especially now that they've got the chrome, like, it's not just a black bar, but it's like a chrome bar with the round camera dots on it. It's even more obvious, right? Like, you know.
It is. Yeah.
And I dig that aesthetic, and I think they're continuing that with this Pixel. And it's interesting too that the camera matches now, the camera bar, the visor matches the color of the phone.
Yeah, yeah, and I really wasn't a fan of just like the chrome visor bar. Like I kind of felt like it was sort of not an eyesore, but it kind of stuck out a little bit. I do like how the colors match, because I think it just like I said, it kind of calls back to just like something more fun, less businessy, and just like really expressing yourself with these really cool colors. But I really do like that. Like I would like. Because everyone made fun of the phone, saying that it looked like Bender back in the day with the 8 Pro. And you had the silver one. So like, I would like a blue one with a blue visor bar. I think that would be pretty cool. And
I hope they do a blue.
Yeah, I don't hate the circle. Like I said, I think it's fun.
You're right. I mean, it's better than I expected seeing it like handled in a hand. And also, I have to say, like, the other thing that I'm digging is I was a little upset when they first leaked and they had the slap sides, like the flat sides, because I'm like, everybody's doing that because Apple did it, right? Like, Apple did the slab sides on the iPhone, starting with what? The 13, 13, right?
Okay,
14,
yeah, okay.
13, one of those.
One of those.
It's been a while. And then, Samsung did it, right? S23 and 4, I think. And then, now Google, I'm like, damn it, we're losing our rounded edges. But it's okay because, now you don't no longer have the curved edges on these phones. Like it's a flat. I like the flat screen much better. And so if you're gonna do a flat screen, flat edges is fine. And if you want a bit more comfort because you're worried about it digging in your palm or something, which if it's designed right, there's a bit of a radius on the corner of the back, but a case always solves that problem easily. You can pick a case that's less more round, less pointy in your hand. Like, but I'm very happy with what I'm seeing. And
Same.
What I'm going to be even happier, they haven't invited me yet, so I need to reach out and see what the deal is. I'm on Team Pixel, so it's possible they're going to send me the device without really inviting me to the thing. But we'll see. The point is that I will get the devices and hopefully the XL, because that's what I really want. But I'm excited that the aesthetics of this thing is coming together. And I'm also looking forward to the processor upgrades, because this is my biggest gripe, and it has been since, they switched to Tensor, is, Tensor first gen was very rough. Tensor second gen, better. But third gen is still not quite where I'd like it to be.
Yeah.
Still gets hot. Battery life still not as good as it could be. It's fine. Like, I live with it every day. I wouldn't change my main phone because of it, because I love the software tweaks and the features that Google brings to the table, especially the calling features. And it's like very much there are three ecosystems out there for the West, for the US, really, for the North Americans. It's like Apple, Samsung, and Google, really, because Moto doesn't quite have that yet. And BBK Group and Xiaomi, of course, they have that in China, but they don't really have that here. OnePlus is starting to a little bit. They get the Buds, the Tab, all that stuff. Right. But I think that if I have to pick one ecosystem, Google is really where I'm going to be. Samsung is obviously very close because it's also running Android, but I cannot get into Samsung's like UI, UX and their general. There is something amiss, and I think a lot of people who have been using Samsung for years in this country don't even realize. Like, they don't they're so used to the Samsung way, just like people on iPhones forever are so used to the Apple way, that they don't see the shortcomings. But I really, really do feel like that if you have to pick on a UX ecosystem basis on Android, one of them, Google Pixel is the way to go. And that's a personal preference. Like, if hardware wise, of course I'd take an S24 Ultra that was a Pixel. Like, in terms better processor, I think better cameras, even the hardware. Like, imagine the hardware of the Galaxy S24 Ultra with the camera software of the Pixel. Like, no brainer.
What was that called back in the day where you could buy the phones that had like stock Android on it? What was it, Pure, or it was something a long time ago? Silver or
Google
something?
Play Edition.
Google Play Edition. Yeah, I remember the Google Play Edition. That was supposed to be such a big thing, and only a couple phones came out like that.
Oh, there was the HTC One M8, and there was the Galaxy S6, I want to say, or
Google Play Edition. Yeah,
that was good times.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we need more of that, but it's such a pain to maintain for them. And of course, now everybody wants to suck you into their ecosystem. And Google's got, back in the Nexus days, Nexus was kind of like, we're showing you the way how to make a phone. But now Pixel, they're really serious about it, especially with Rick Osterloh and running the show over there, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's doing a good job, I think, overall.
I remember the Nexus line was sort of like, oh, we're not trying to make this phone great. We're just showing you how to make a phone type of thing. And that was always the excuse, the reasoning. And then the Nexus became very expensive, like an expensive phone. Like, okay, now it has to, like the Galaxy Nexus or something like that, I remember. And I was like, okay, this phone's kind of expensive. We have to expect certain things. And then, that was a very interesting time back then. That was when I really got my first start during that whole time. So it was just a very interesting space and not so kind of stagnant now. And I guess we can kind of segue to the Chinese markets that always do
I
fun
love that
phones.
You found that as a segue. Yes,
you like that? You like that? Yeah.
That was really good. Yeah. Look, so there's a bunch of stuff that happened while we were, focusing on the Razr for good reason, of course. RedMagic launched a 9S Pro and 9S Pro Plus in China. That means it's coming to North America soon. As you know, RedMagic does sell in North America with compatible 5G bands with a warranty. I've got the 9 Pro here. I've been using it for a while. I mean, if you want a gaming phone and you don't want to spend ASUS money on a ROG phone, this is the way to go. Like, the RedMagics are pretty solid. More importantly, what I like about them is that, they just look a certain, like they're like perfectly rectangular. Nothing sticks. The camera bump is flush. There's no bump, basically. So I shouldn't even say bump. Like, it's flush. The screen has an under display front-facing camera, which is meh, but it's fine. It's good enough for the occasional selfie. It's gotten better over time. Gorgeous OLED, flat screen, slab sides. It's like a monolith. It looks like 2001: A Space Odyssey, like that black monolith, but in a phone form factor. And there's almost no bezels. The screen goes like right to the edges. And this is 9S is exactly the same industrial design. It's just they are using, from what it looks like, a kind of overclocked or slightly higher clocked. I presume they're binning the processors from Qualcomm. What I mean by binning is they're picking off the assembly line the Qualcomm 8 Gen 3s that are able to run at higher clock speeds without falling apart. There, that's what binning is on the chip world. Is like you Intel does this where like all those different SKUs, right, for Core i5. It's like the low end ones are the ones that don't perform so well after they've been manufactured because there's defects. So they disabled a couple of cores and they sell them still. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what binning is. And so this 8 Gen 3 looks like a bespoke bin version for RedMagic. It's slightly faster than the regular. It's kind of like, the 8 Gen 3 for Galaxy, right? That's a bin version as well that Samsung gets on the S24 and is probably going to get on the Flip and Fold. And so that's basically the only news. There's very little there that's different from the 9 Pro and 9 Pro Plus, just the binned faster processor. And, I have to say, having played with the regular 9 and 9 Pro, it's been interesting because the first time, I have them every year. And so I always review them and do like tests on sustainable performance, like how long can it run a game without losing its mojo. And that's why there's a 20,000 RPM fan. Now it's 22,000 on this one. But without the fan, usually these phones have such good thermals to start with that you lose only like 99. You go down to 99% performance after 20 minutes or so.
Oh, that's amazing.
Whereas with the fan, you stay at 100 the whole time. But there's a 9 Pro that I just had. It's actually gone down. Like even with the fan, it can't maintain 100. I think the 8 Gen 3 runs hotter than previous Snapdragons. And so this 8 Gen 3 in this 9S series, I think it's probably the biggest change that is under the hood is on thermals, because this is the first time with the 9 non-S that I was actually saying, oh my God, like RedMagic can't keep the 100% with the fan on. I've never seen that before. And so I think that what they did here is, they're like, we can do better than this, and so they're just going all out and coming out with this, overclock slightly improve. And I think they talk about this here, that it's better cooling. And the battery is even bigger. So the one I have is 6,000 milliamp hour. This is 6,500.
My goodness.
The Chinese model gets, the Plus is China only. I think it gets a slightly smaller battery that charges faster. So you pick your choice.
Snapdragon is synonymous with overheating, and that's been the fact for many years. It happens so much that manufacturers are always building these vapor cooling chambers inside their phones now. And OnePlus built one that's great, and it really prevents it from overheating, especially on the 12 series. And then it's on the Open, and then also Samsung has their own vapor cooling system, or whatever they
Everybody
call it.
does it. You have management. To. It's the only way.
Yeah. But it's just very interesting that thermals become it's been such a hot topic. That was such a hot topic lately.
I love it. That was a good one.
To the top of the list. It's just very interesting that we're still dealing with it. Is I guess what I'm getting at.
Well, this is my theory. I've been talking about this on a few shows ago. I think the 8 Gen 4 is going to be even hotter, because of those new cores that they're using. It's going to be sharing the Orion cores from the Snapdragon X PC processors. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're going to see incredible performance improvement, but at the cost of battery life and thermals when those cores kick in. So obviously it's not going to make a big difference in everyday life. But if you're gaming, I think in the same way as RedMagic had their work cut out this year, came out with a 9, and then it really needed to improve it and came out with a 9S that we're talking about. I think last year they're going to have their work cut out with a RedMagic 10, because I'm calling it now. I hope we're not in a situation where it's as bad as a Snapdragon 808 and 810. I don't know if you remember those chips when they changed the CPU cores to the new Orion stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
And it was actually, it wasn't Orion. It was ARM, standard ARM, and it was they were hot and they didn't run well, and it was a bit of a mess for a year there. I hope they learn their lesson and we don't get that. I'm sure they're knowing what they're doing because they're Qualcomm, but this is just to show that you're right. It's a hot topic. I love it. So anyway, RedMagic has new phones. Expect them to come to the US. There are minor improvements but mostly on thermals, and I think that's a good thing. The next thing I have here is Realme 13 Pro Plus. So this is important because you and I love a good camera phone. And most camera phones, as you know, are pretty expensive. They're going to, throw everything but the kitchen sink in that hardware and make something nice. Like, you have to spend, Pixel 8a is probably the entry level of a good camera phone, right? At an affordable price point. Even the 12R from OnePlus cameras, the main sensor is okay. The rest is not that great. You kind of have to go up from there, right? So what's exciting about the Realme number series, like the Realme 13 Pro, 13 Pro Plus, these phones, is that every 6 months or so they come out with a new one. Like, we just got the 12 Pro Plus like not that long ago. And what's interesting about these phones is that they are very affordable, good camera phones. So like, $350 in China, $400 in the rest of the world, in India. And to give you an example, like the previous one, the 12 Pro Plus, had a 50 megapixel main sensor, Lydia, similar to the one that's in this one. And it had a 64 megapixel 3x telephoto, the same one as in the OnePlus Open.
Oh, wow.
And then
that's a good one.
Then it had just an 8 megapixel ultra wide. But for $350, the main sensor has OIS, OLED display, some kind of mid-range Qualcomm chip. Like this, these are decent phones. They're really optimized for imaging, though. So the 13 Pro Plus, usually they don't come out with two of them in a year. So it was a bit weird. I was expecting the 13 Pro Plus to come out like October, November-ish, but because we just got the 12 Pro Plus in January. And then the 12 Pro and the 13 Pro are slightly lesser versions of the same thing. But this is interesting, and that's why I brought it in, because I'm like, okay, they've changed the telephoto to a 50 megapixel. It looks like it's similar to what we have on the OnePlus 12 this time, that 50 megapixel 3X. So here you have a phone that costs like $350 to $400 that has an incredible, and they have a brand new Lydia sensor on this thing for the main sensor. It's like really high quality, low light performance on the main sensor with OIS, and then they have a 3x telephoto folded periscope with OIS as well. And then you get a kind of a matte 8x, ultra wide, but for that kind of money. And then of course the big thing is their hyper, processing engine, whatever AI based thing that they're like kind of like rah-ing about here. And it's I've seen it on the GT series, this processing engine, the HyperImage Plus, and I think it's it's using AI to kind of fix like detail and crispiness, as it were, of your images, and it works. It's cool. It's great. I appreciate it, and so I'm looking forward to getting. I'm probably gonna get one of these. I just feel like for this price, I have to check it out. It's like, how low can you go and still make a decent camera phone?
And the only thing about those software tweaks, especially for Chinese phones, and especially me being African American, is just it tends to lighten skin tones, which is something that I understand, like regionally, like some people want that, but
it's a problem.
You can never turn that off, though. Even when you turn off beauty mode, and that's a whole nother can of worms.
Oh my God, their beauty mode on Chinese phones is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I look like a porcelain doll at that point. But even then, though, there should be a way to turn that off and just turn on true skin tone or something like that. And so something like that always rubs me the wrong way, especially when looking at the camera.
Obviously. For me. For sure. And rightfully so.
Yeah.
Especially when you see what Google's done with Pixel, and Apple's doing a better job. Samsung's doing a better job. that's definitely a challenge. But I still think, it's interesting to see where they're taking it because it's trickle down, right? This stuff is gonna, if they can make a phone with 3 cameras, one of them being a folded lens for $350, it means that we're gonna get maybe someday some phones like that here, right? Like OnePlus is gonna bring a Nord or something that's gonna have, that, and they're gonna have the color science right. I know. How do you feel about OnePlus's processing?
I think it's gotten, I think the last 2 years, it's very good. No, very, very little complaints. Early on, it was sort of doing that same thing, but I think the last few years, it's gotten a lot better. And I've taken selfies with it, taken pictures of my son with it, and I enjoyed the photo. Didn't think they did any weird lighting. So, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I think that if this Realme 13 Pro Plus tech trickles down to a cheaper OnePlus, we're going to benefit. And that's why I'm excited about it. But yeah, I totally hear your complaint, and it's super valid because, like, come on, like you gotta keep, you gotta keep things real. Like, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
But I know China wants everybody to be, AI modified when they take a photo, especially of people. And speaking of OnePlus, we've got the Nord 4. Like, I don't know how familiar with the original Nord you are.
I am, yeah.
So, the Nord comes in all kinds of flavors. In North America, we get the Nord N series, which are really kind of cheapish and detuned. And then we get, in Europe, you get the CE version, which stands for CE, which in French means European Union. It's the same letters. It's kind of funny. That's how I think about it. The C is for Europe. The N is for North America. There's also C is also sold in India, so it doesn't really quite match. But
gotcha. Okay.
Then there's the regular Nord line, the actual mid-range Nord, because the Nord became 2 lines. It became the mid-range Nord, which don't have C or N, and then there is like the cheaper Nords, which are C or N. So this is the main Nord.
I've never used the main.
Yeah,
never used the main Nord.
The main Nord is not available in North America or anywhere. It's mostly Europe and Asia. The Nord 1 was an incredible phone. It's the last phone Carl Pei made before he left to found nothing, and it was like unbelievable specs for the money. Like, it was just like, at the time when I reviewed it, I was like, they got to lose money on every phone they make, and that's probably why he left. Cause he's like, I want to do something like that, but on my own. And that's basically, look at Phone 1, Nothing Phone 1. That was basically Nord 2.0 for him, right? Then of course they did a Nord 2 at OnePlus and a Nord 3, and they were all really solid. But this Nord 4, looks really interesting because you remember how the HTC phones had like a solid metal back, like how before you went to glass, it was unibody metal, but like a MacBook, like the whole thing was metal.
Oh yeah,
they're doing this again. Look at the phone.
It looks great.
So there's a bar at the top where the camera that's glass because you need to have the antennas and NFC and all that other stuff. But the bottom, like 3/4 of the back is metal. And there's matching color and patterns. These are teaser images from OnePlus or leaked images. And you can see also some actual leaked photos that can really show, like that third photo in the GSM Arena article that I will link to. You can really see how there's a metal frame and it kind of turns into the back right below the camera pod, right?
Yeah.
So I think not only that, but what's also interesting, so design is pretty cool. But then the specs are also really interesting. And OnePlus seems to be going, and also a lot of BBK group phones are moving away from using stupid 2-megapixel sticker cameras like for macro and stuff to actually just putting 2 cameras, a good main sensor and an ultra wide. And that's, I think, what we're seeing here. Yeah. Rumors are Snapdragon 7 Plus Gen 3. That's always been the case with the Nord, so it's been a mid-ranger. So, it's going to have an OLED screen, fast charging, large battery, everything you'd expect. So I'm excited about it because the Nord holds a special place in my heart, the original. And, I got the Nord 2, but I never got the 3. I probably won't get the 4. I just don't have the bandwidth anymore. But I just think it's interesting to keep an eye on what's going on in the mid-range with OnePlus because, even though they're not, it's no longer Carl Pei driving the train here, they're still doing some really cool stuff. And remember, Realme is BBK Group as well. So this Realme phone we saw there's going to be a lot of parallels between those mid-range phones, right? Those $300 to $500 phones. And what are your thoughts on Nord and the branding and all that, and where they're going with it?
Well, you just blew my mind, to be honest. I knew nothing of any of that. I just knew the Nord N series, and I knew nothing else. So, I always felt the Nord phones were really good budget. Well, the Nord N series were budget phones, but for my liking, they always felt cheaper than something I would personally use. So it's just always one of those things where like I wouldn't see myself using it, but for the specs, for the money, even though the build quality wasn't great, a little squeaky at times, there's like a little things that makes the phone not seem like a well-built phone. But for the specs, for the money, is like it's still really hard to beat. But it just goes back to that whole thing, like who's buying this phone over a Pixel A series? Like how do
nobody? I mean,
how
you can't even compare. I feel like the Pixel A is still a mid-range phone, whereas the Nord N series are budget phones, and they compete with Moto G, right? Like plastic build, blah blah blah. Like I think when Nord came to North America, like that's why the N series exists. The Nord N is because it's really specific to our market. It's designed to cost a little more than something equivalent from Realme or Oppo in India would, right? Because there the prices are cutthroat. So basically what I'm saying is that we're getting $300 Nord N series, right? That are really $180, $200 phones in the rest of the world if you buy them from Oppo or Realme, because there's always an equivalent out there, right?
For sure.
Whereas in the Nord CE, you get the CE line, and then you get the CE Lite line, and the CE and the CE Lite are kind of like the 350 to 400, and then less than 200 for the Lite. And then, whereas the Nord is like 550, 600, right? And then you got the regular one. So think of the 12R as kind of being just past normal Nord.
Gotcha.
And then you got, so it's kind of like, if you look at the hierarchy of it, it's like you've got like open, then you got 12, then you got 12R that's similar to the Ace Pro in the rest of the world. And then you've got the Nord is kind of similar to the Ace Non-Pro, which is the Chinese ones are called Ace. And then you got like, then below that you get Nord N and Nord CE, but Nord N is more like Nord CE Lite because they sell them for the price of Nord CE, but they actually expect Nord CE Lite. You know what I'm saying? They're budget phones.
Different.
It's kind of a thing. And then you look at Realme and you look at Oppo, and they have the same kind of lines as well. So anyway, I'm mostly excited to see that I wasn't sure if they're going to do a Nord this year, and they are, and so there it is. But you know what I'm really excited about talking about Carpe, and what I mean, Nothing. Everybody loves Nothing, right?
Sure, yeah.
And the 2A was a really solid phone for the money, right? Well, guess what? I think that I'm not sure how Carpe is going to pull this one off, frankly, because if this phone is as good as it seems, the CMF Phone 1, CMF is the sub-brand of Nothing. I can't believe that Nothing has a sub-brand already.
Yeah, that's when I first heard about it, I was confused.
2 years now, making watches and earbuds and stuff in India. So India, very price sensitive. They came out with CMF brand as like a budget Nothing brand. And CMF stands for color, materials, and finish, right? It's kind of like fun play on the industry. But they're coming out with a phone. We've seen lots of leaks. I've been covering like hell in the podcast for weeks now. I ran into Jane, the head of PR for Nothing in New York. We talked by email, but I just ran into her, and she's got one coming for me, not right away, but because it's not US market, but the CMF Phone 1 will be coming in my hands, and I cannot wait because they seem to be undercutting in price the Nothing Phone 2A, and it's almost as good. It's probably the same. Like, I'm like, how? Yeah. How are they doing this? Yeah. And then look at this design. We finally got to see a live image of the front leaked, but that's not the important part. CMF or Nothing has actually posted photos of the industrial design of this thing. And come on, can you not, like, this is unbelievably cool looking.
That is cool. What is that? What is that little notch? Is that like for a key ring? Like a carabiner clip or something?
Yeah, so like there's a screwdriver in the middle of that image where you see the black one. There's a
Yeah.
the back panel screws onto the phone, and you can change it. That's
That's
what
cool.
the people. That's what people are what's the word, are, presuming is happening. And then of course that round thing at the bottom right corner of the phone is attached to the case part, and it can be removed as well and replaced with, as you can see, a kickstand or a lanyard or like what looks like maybe a battery pack or something.
That's
But
pretty cool.
it's like
Yeah.
it's like very teenage engineering in its design, right? Because they partner with them. And I don't know, I'm super, and the specs on this are unreal. I don't know if you heard, 6.67 1080p AMOLED 120 hertz display. This is a $200 phone. $250 at most.
Oh, man.
Yes.
That's awesome.
50 megapixel main camera. No, we're not sure it has OIS. Remember, the 2A still has OIS, so maybe they'll cut that out. But it won't have an ultra wide. It's probably just going to be a 2 megapixel macro or something in the back. But like, the bottom line is, it's also got a Dimensity 7300, according to the leaks. Listen, that's the processor in the Razer Minus on a $220 phone.
Wow.
See what I'm saying?
That's amazing. Yeah, that's cool. Like, I mean, just the design by itself is cool. Like, I want to check it. I just want to feel it. I want to check it out. I want to do something with it. This is very cool.
Well, that's why I told Jane, like, please hook me up, because this is gonna be like, I don't know, like, I don't know how does nothing make money? Like, it's like, oh, amazing.
Yeah, I wonder how a lot of phone companies make money sometimes when no one's buying them.
Well, the thing is, Carl knows the business really well. He was at Oppo and then OnePlus and then nothing. And, like, he knows his stuff. He knows how to make a profit. He knows how to do the supply chain game like Tim Cook does. I just kind of wonder, like, how it can be profitable for him, for his company, or maybe he's got a long runway because he's got tons of investors. He's trying to establish the brand and maybe get acquired. That's the only thing I can think of, because when do you see nothing phones in the wild? Maybe in India you see them. Like, even Europe the uptake hasn't been super strong. And then CMF, like, now you're talking niche of niche here, right? Like, I mean, as much as I dig it, I'm like, how is this working for nothing, Anyway,
Yeah,
I wish them luck.
sure.
I love what they're doing. Carl is a genius. So, Honor Magic V3 is starting to leak. It's the ultra thin folding phone from Honor. So the V2 last year was the thinnest folding book style phone ever made, and it still is today. Nobody's matched it. And then of course they did a Porsche edition, Porsche design, and now we're looking at the V3, the next gen, which closed. I don't know if you saw, if you link the link I've got here, if you click through it and you go to the link in there, the first sentence, it says, we already saw the phone in orange. If you click on the phone in orange, there's a photo there that shows you how thin the phone is.
Yeah.
It looks like it's thinner than a Galaxy or a Pixel.
Yeah. So I saw the V2 in Barcelona my first time getting a chance, and it's just like, it's eerily thin. Like, it shouldn't be this thin type of thing. You know what I mean? So yeah, this is super cool. I mean, it's amazing engineering.
Yeah, just for like, can they pull it off and still have decent cameras in there? Because that's the thickness problem. Their Honors get some really good engineering chops. The always thing that always makes me feel kind of meh is the software. But like, overall, I think I'm excited and impressed about it and looking forward to it. And also those colors are hot. Like, it's pleather, I think. We've got like this orange, of course, the green, the white, the black, this red. This really looks very nice. I think it's going to be interesting. By the way, just for the listeners real quick, some dates you should keep track of. Of course, next week, July 10th is Unpacked. Also next week, July 8th, is CMF Phone 1 launch. 2 days before Unpacked is CMF. 2 days after Unpacked is the Magic V3 we're just talking about now. And then, of course, August 13th, Pixel 9 event. So lots going on next week. We're going to be having our hands full with Samsung. But keep an eye out, because I know a lot of you are not in North America and Europe. A lot of you are in Asia and India and in markets where, you don't really care so much about Samsung, and I get it. So I'll definitely cover the rest of it next week too. But just lots of launches next week. So, keep an eye out for things. I'm excited. You, Kevin?
Yeah, of course. Of course,
Good
I'm excited.
times,
I mean,
good times.
what I like about Apple, what I like about Samsung, like they're like the thought provoking companies, right? They do something new and then the market tries to react to that, right? Or you
Yep.
could see Apple or Samsung reacting to the market. So you always get to see something more fleshed out, something that has a funnier name to it, or something that is like hyped up. It's just for me as a person that loves tech, I'm always super excited to just see what the big companies are doing, and being able to cover it is just like a dream come true for me. So really, I always look forward to it.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask, like, why do you care about the budget phones? Because look, not everybody lives in a world where flagships are subsidized and that's all they buy. And I want to respect that. And also, you need to know what's happening at the low end to understand the entire picture of the market. And,
Agree.
honestly, trickle down, like when you see a Pixel 8a and how good it is, when you see a OnePlus 12R and how good it is, when you see how good the Nothing Phone 2a is, or this CMF Phone 1, which I think is going to be a complete awesome phone. When you see that, you're like, okay, like every price point has something exciting. And yes, of course, here, we walk into a Verizon store and we buy an iPhone 15 or Galaxy S24. I get it. But like, not everyone can do that. Not everyone, even in North America, in the US, can do that. There's a lot of people who walk into a prepaid store and get like some kind of cheap, Moto G, right? Well, imagine if they had the ability to buy a Realme 13 Pro Plus for the same amount of money. They would work here, 5G would work, and they would actually have a better experience, So I think this is kind of why I'm excited about these cheaper phones and also the weird phones from China, because eventually that stuff comes to us in some way or another. And we all benefit, and it drives the whole industry forward. I kind of agree with Michael Fisher that, phones are not as much fun as they used to be in some ways. But I kind of feel like when you see the CMF Phone 1 design, phones are fun. When you see this Magic V3 super thin folding phone, phones are fun. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
know. Like, I can't be jaded about it. I'm not saying Michael is. I'm just saying his focus is on folding phones, which is definitely where the most exciting stuff is happening right now. But I feel like that's why, for me, I get excited when I get a Moto G in the mail. I'm like, okay, I'm going to play with it for a few days. It's not going to be my daily driver, but I want to know what it's like. I want to know what it's like to be, prepaid, come in and get this phone for free or whatever. Is it terrible? Is it? And sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. And when it's not, it's really worth noting. Like this Moto Edge last year, $500 super awesome Moto phone that completely got ignored because none of us reviewed it because we were all busy with Open and Pixel and iPhone, right? Like bad timing.
Yeah.
Moto should have done a better job there, I think. But at the same time, we're also seeing that with the Razr, right? Like the Razr Minus this year is essentially last year's Razr Plus for the same price as last year's Razr Minus. A lot of us are kind of like, yeah, but yeah, the processor is not that great. And, it's got last year's smaller screen. Oh, at least it has the ultra wide. But like, let's reality check for a second. It's a $699 phone that's as good as the $999 phone was last year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And as the price comes down, it becomes more accessible for more people and everyone has kind of a better experience. And then it makes the high end have to do more since the low end can do so much more now. So it's a trickle down effect and a trickle up effect, which is I love to see.
Fantastic. Well, listen, we should wrap up. Kevin, you want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, your social media handles, of course, your YouTube channel, all the good stuff you do.
Yeah, you can find me at Tech Ninja Speaks on all the platforms, YouTube. I'm not on Twitter much these days, but I'm still there. Twitter, Threads, Instagram, Tech Ninja Speaks, and we'll love to connect with you.
Yes, you should follow the ninja of all tech. Kevin's awesome. I love your videos.
Appreciate it.
And of course, you should subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. You know where to find me. I'm at Tankerl, TNKGRL, on all the major platforms. That's Twitter, that's Threads, that's Instagram, Blue Sky. So find me there, follow me, and then don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, mobiletechpodcast.com. We're on all the major platforms. Tell your friends. And there's a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. You know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell. Tell me in the comments, what you think of these phones we're talking about. You'll see some videos there on the channel about some of them. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. And finally, there's a Patreon. If you want to help me out, patreon.com/tankgirl. That's patreon.com/TNKGRL. There is a video version of this podcast where you can see me and Kevin talk and show phones and stuff. Sometimes there's bloopers. Sometimes it's a little longer. If you want all this, $5 a month gives you a video version of the podcast, usually a day before. And it helps support me. So I'd appreciate you checking it out at patreon.com/TNKGRL. If you can help me out, consider doing it. And if you don't like Patreon, there is a PayPal link in the show notes. You can click on that and make a donation. I'd appreciate that as well. Finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And Kevin, thanks so much for joining me to chat about all things Galaxy, Pixel, and crazy Chinese phones. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Kevin. We'll have you on at some point in the future. And folks, we'll have another show next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.